What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream today. Sony has just had a pretty big announcement and they're releasing a new camera. They're calling it the FX30. And I think it's going to be a pretty interesting camera. So I wanted to hop on here and sort of have some dialogue. And, I was curious what you guys are thinking of this new camera. Have you seen it yet? Are you interested in it? And ultimately, let's just talk about it a little bit. So the interesting thing about this camera is that it is actually a cinema camera. It's one of their cinematic line in their cinematic line, and it has the same body as their super awesome camera, the FX3. It's the most interesting thing about it, though, is that it is not full frame. It's actually a crop sensor camera. So I believe this is one of the first times that Sony is having this like super 35 millimeter crop sensor camera in their cinema line. So this crop sensor in a cinematic body. And I think it's an interesting choice. I don't know, who was asking for it, but it's kind of cool that it's here. So I think it's definitely a very interesting option. And I see some of you guys joining the chat. What's up, Sheeps for Jesus? Nice to see you here in the stream. Vikrit, what's up? Welcome. We've got Michaela in here. It is a very interesting camera indeed. Sanuka, what's up? Hey, from Sri Lanka, nice to see you. Thanks for joining the stream today. Again, this is more of a casual stream here today. I think it's going to be kind of an interesting development that has happened with this release. And so I just wanted to hop on and have some dialogue. We're just going to chat about it a little bit. There's not like a ton of it's not going to be a lot of tutorials or a lot of like anything other than like I just wanted to hang out, just wanted to chat and kind of like see what your guys' thoughts are on this camera and share some of mine. I think that it's going to be very interesting. It falls in a weird place in the market. I am fortunate enough to have been invited to the press release for this camera, which was yesterday. So I had a little bit of a heads up for it. And, I think that it is pretty cool. They're sort of like aiming this at creators. I believe that's kind of their motivation is to target the ZV-1 users and the ZV-E10 users who are looking to step up their level into the more cinematic quality. But right now, prior to this camera, there's been such a gap. It's like the ZV-1 is like, around $600, $700. And then you have the FX3, which is in their cinema line, which is a nice small compact cinema camera for close to $4,000. Well, the exciting thing is that this new camera, the FX30, is going to be price pointed at $1,799. And the amount of specs and features that you get in this camera is crazy. It's like you get 4K at 120 frames a second, which is wild. You have like all of the bells and whistles, technically speaking, of the cinema line, like the FX3, but for $1,799. And really the main trade-off is just instead of full frame, you have crop sensor. So why is this interesting? Well, I feel like it's going to be a potentially great option for ZV-E10 users that have collected some crop sensor lenses and are sort of ready to level up with their next camera purchase. This camera is going to be fantastic for them, as well as A7S3 and FX3 users where the more full frame options who are looking to add a B camera to their lineup. I feel like that is really the sweet spot for who this camera is for. If you're just starting out, this camera is pretty overkill. If you've been doing this for a long time, and you already have full frame cameras and you're used to it, you may not be as interested. But if you're looking to add that second camera option, or you're looking to upgrade from something like the ZV-E10, I think this could be a very compelling option for a lot of people. So I just wanted to hop on and chat about it. It's sort of buzzing right now. I see a lot of people posting about it, and I just wanted to offer my insights. I think that the specs look crazy. Like they look absolutely wild. And, just talking about some of these specs, it's like, you're going to have 4K 120 that's nuts. Like, just to put that in perspective, even the Sony A7 IV, which I have a full video about on my channel, doesn't even do 4K 120. In fact, it does 4K 60 with a crop. Now, I do believe there is going to be a subtle crop on 4K 120, but there is no crop on 4K 60 with the FX30. Why does all this matter? Let's talk a lot of frame rates and specs, because you're going to have really high quality, super slow motion, and that's really fun. And I think that's going to be really useful for a lot of people. You're going to have the flip out screen. You're going to have unlimited record time. You're going to have a built-in fan to help keep the camera cool. You're going to have better stabilization than the ZV-E10. And I would say, for me personally, the ZV-E10 is a fantastic camera. And again, it's like $1,000 cheaper than this camera, than the FX30, but there are some shortcomings. And if you've used the ZV-E10, you've experienced these shortcomings. You're going to have that. The biggest one to me is just, you know, the camera can tend to get a bit hot when shooting for a long time. The battery life is not the best if you're not plugging it in. And the main issue with me with the ZV-E10, it's a fantastic camera, don't get me wrong, but one of the main issues I had with it was the stabilization. It's just not the best stabilization. So hopping over to the FX30, I think the stabilization is going to be a bit better because they have 5-axis image stabilization, physically stabilizing the sensor, and you still have the active stab modes and the ability to still use it with whatever their program is, Catalyst Browse. So that's cool. Lots of good things. So let's see. We got a question. Learn Spanish World. How does it stand before the Sony A7S III? Full transparency, the A7S III is going to be a better camera. Like, it's full frame, so you're going to have more depth, a little bit more light, but you have a much higher price tag. So the fact that you get basically pretty much all the same like features and specs that the A7S III has, you're just trading off the sensor size, but you get it for $17.99. Like, that's compelling, right? Like, you're saving quite a bit of money, and you could invest that in some more glass. And speaking of glass, like, that really is why this camera is really intriguing to me personally. Recently, Sony released their 3 new crop sensor lenses. I forget all of them, but one of them in particular is the 11mm 1.8, and it's this tiny little lens that is around $500. And I believe they released those 3 lenses in anticipation for this camera. And so now a lot of people were speculating like, oh, they made these for the ZV-E10. And while they will work for the ZV-E10, I think they really released it for this camera, the FX30, because I think that's really where they're going to shine. So the fact that you could get a cinema camera with 4K 120, 4K 60, like all the crazy bells and whistles for $17.99 and save a bit of change on some lenses for YouTube, like if you're doing vlogging or talking head, getting that 11mm 1.8, I mean, for $500, that's a pretty good deal. You're still under the price of something like just the Sony A7 IV body or the A7S III or the FX3. So it seems like a compelling option if you're getting serious. Now, the cool thing with this camera is the range. It's approachable to content creators because that's really who they've designed it for. So you can do a lot of stuff with ease. So one of the unique features that they're offering that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about yet is the ability to import LUTs into the camera as a picture profiles. So you can record with the FX30 with your LUTs already integrated into it, so you don't have to do that in post. That's pretty unique to this camera, and I think this is a really groundbreaking thing that's going to be interesting. There's pros and cons to it. Personally, I love the flexibility of getting to choose that stuff later, but I get for a lot of creators who are just wanting to get the best image quality possible with the least amount of editing. Maybe you're doing daily vlogs, maybe you're doing quick turnaround podcasts, maybe you're doing, whatever it is, even live streams. You could access your LUTs that way. Now, one of the funny things about this is I don't think that a lot of creators who are starting out, who are more along the ZV-1, even ZV-E10 range, even understand like what S-Log is or what LUTs do or any of that stuff. So I think they're missing the mark just a smidge there as far as who they're targeting. But I think if they can learn that and comprehend that, get that filmmaking knowledge down, it can be very useful to a lot of people who are just wanting to get those good colors from their LUT without having to apply everything in post. So it's an interesting thing. I also think it's going to change the industry of LUTs. Like there's so many filmmaker creators that sell LUT packages and presets for editing. And I think if this starts to become the new wave for camera manufacturers to allow the importation of LUTs into the devices, it could change the way creators make and sell LUTs and change the motivation for consumers to buy them. You know, I could see creators making, here's my FX30 pack, here's my, you know, Canon R7 pack or whatever, you know, future cameras would do that. It could be an interesting way that the industry shakes a little bit with the way that LUTs are integrated into the actual capturing of footage. So something to think about. We got Zach Sopak here in the stream today. What's up, Zach? I was just texting you recently. I got to get back to you, but hey, thank you. Riley actually helped me out with my sound, so shout out to him. Thank you so much for stopping by. We got R Graphics, one of my favorite YouTubers. Thank you so much, R. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Let's see. Sanuka Ben, can I make overhead mic setup? Maybe I'll do that in the future. That's a good suggestion. So getting back to the camera, it's got a lot of interesting features, a lot of interesting stuff packed into it for the price. And really it's the price. That is the most intriguing, the most interesting aspect of this, you know, camera, because they're taking the cinema, the power of the cinema, and making it more affordable. And that's really exciting. I hope that continues to be the trend. I mean, we all hope that, but I don't think it's going to necessarily replace the market for the ZV-1s and the ZV-E10s. I think the ZV series still 100% has a place. And I think the higher end cinema line, like the FX3, FX6, whatever, certainly has a place. This camera is a interesting choice. The crop sensor I do believe it will turn off some people to even consider it, those who just want full frame. I would almost lend myself in that category because I have invested in so much full frame glass and invested in, you know, I love my A7C, which is what I'm using right now with my full frame 20 mil. But the fact that they've released these crop sensor lenses and now have a great camera to work with it. I mean, this is like their flagship crop sensor. I don't see how it couldn't be. It's the best crop sensor, like one of the best I've ever seen. Like it's going to be fantastic. So plus it's a dope camera body. Like I love the look of the FX3. Like it's such a vibe. So I think that's going to be a really cool option for people, especially people that are really getting serious about their craft. Maybe they're starting to do weddings, they're starting to do music videos or doing client work, and they don't have, you know, a camera with these types of specs yet. This is going to be a very affordable option for them. So all that to say, it's a very interesting setup. And I'm excited about it. I'm just excited that Sony keeps pushing the limits. Like the fact that they're doing all this with that crop sensor, it's like, man, that's dope. Can't wait to see what else that they're going to be coming up with. So yeah, I think it's going to be pretty cool. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. I really do want to know. Sheeps for Jesus, what's the price? The price is $17.99 for the body. So $17.99 for the body. Again, quite a bit more expensive than the ZV-E10, but what you're getting for that price is crazy, because to get those specs now, you're going to be spending like $3,500 to $4,000. So it's a great and welcomed price tag, in my opinion. Jason says the real question is whether it will be next Netflix approved. I don't have that answer yet, but I do know that they're going to be trying to get it approved. As far as I know, they're going to, you know, go down that road to try to get it approved. I think that it totally quality wise could be. It has the ability to capture 16-bit raw going through HDMI capture. So like it's no joke. Like it's still a cinema camera. Like it's nuts. So we'll see. But I love the form factor, love the size, love the flip out screen, love the unlimited record time. It's apparently has a little bit of a new menu design, and it's touchscreen, and so all of those features are great. If you are going to upgrade from something like the ZVE 10, I do think that this will probably be the best contender, best value for price if you're not looking to go full frame. If you're looking to go full frame, I still think the A7C is a fantastic camera. That's what I'm using right now, and it's only going, and I would assume it's only going to keep going down in price as some of these new cameras get released. So that's a great question though. I don't know if it will be. All right. Cole says just need those specs to trickle down into the A6 700. Yeah, for sure. Like totally. That would be welcomed as well. But I think that it's a good bargain for the specs, in my opinion. It's not the best camera ever. Like there's totally better ones out there, but it's just about the price tag. It's like, man, that's a good deal. And it's compelling to me too. Like, I don't know if I'm going to buy this camera. I don't know if I'm going to, I would love to get my hands on it to do some reviews with it. I don't know if it would be the one that I would do as my go-to. I just haven't got to experience it yet. I was watching some other YouTubers that got to be hands-on with it, and it looks awesome. So I'm definitely excited about it. And I'm just excited about the direction they're going. In the press release that I was a part of, their focus was talking about like creators, and that's exciting to me. They were talking a lot about how, their target was like future content creators and trying to bridge the gap between creators who are starting out and top level filmmaking, gurus. And so like, this camera is sort of meant to be a little bit of a bridge where it's like creators can get a lot out of it. High level filmmakers can still get a lot out of it. So that's exciting. I'm glad that they're aware of the needs of creators. A lot of these faster workflow options with the LUTs and all of that stuff is great. I think it's super welcomed. We got R coming in. Can you please make a video about mobile videography? Yes, absolutely. I have some already. If you want to go check out the channel, I'm trying to remember the name of one of the videos, but I have one where I take my iPhone and I try to make it look all cinematic. So I think you would appreciate that one. But yes, I will try to bring in some more content around that soon, because I think that is a great topic. Great topic indeed. And speaking of this, I love that this is your question. We're talking about the FX30, brand new, high quality camera from Sony. But the questions in the chat are still about mobile videography. And I love that. It's just phones have become so good. It's like there's such a great way to capture content now with just our phones. And it's like, come on, just use what you got on you. Don't let the gear hold you back. Don't let that price tag of $17.99 prevent you from starting, because at the end of the day, the gear will help you. It'll be more convenient. You might get a higher quality image, all that good stuff. But what about the substance of what you're making? And I just did a video all about this. If you missed it, I tested out a little $30 toy camera and pushed it to the limits. And so definitely go check it out, because that was one of my favorite videos that I've made. So we got a couple more comments coming in. Got Cole coming in. A7S3 serving me very well. Amazing camera, right? Like such a good camera. We got Alicio here in the chat. What's up, Alicio? Man, Alicio's awesome. Definitely go check out his stuff. Thanks for stopping by, man. We got Ashok. Will you do the review of this camera? Maybe. I might. If I can get my hands on one, 100% I will. I think it's going to be such a great option for a lot of people, and a really great value for the money. So yes, I would do a review whenever I can get my hands on one. Great question. Let's see what else we got. Got Abzizi, how does one get background blur with a kit lens, aperture 3.5? That's going to be difficult. So aperture is really the main factor of the background blur. And being able to stop down, like right now, my lens is 1.8 aperture. It's a 20 millimeter 1.8 lens, which allows that background depth. One way that you can get more background blur with apertures of 3.5 is having longer focal length, and which causes lens compression. That's going to be hard to film yourself with, but just for shooting in general, if you have longer focal lengths, get an object close to the lens, have a lot of separation naturally with the background, you will see blur. Outside of that, it's going to be difficult to get, you know, this type of background blur with that type of lens, which is why it costs more to get lenses that have that. So if I switch to this now to like 3.5, so this is like roughly what 3.5 would look like, right? And so that's just me changing it around. Still looks good. If you can get close to the lens with a wider one, you're going to get a little bit more of that blur. There is still a little bit of blur going on, but it's not going to be as, you know, drastic or insane as the 1.8. So I'm going to change it back. It was around there, maybe. Forget what my exposure settings was at, but it seems close enough. So hopefully that answers your question. Great question. Also, if you're interested, I do have a free course that goes over all of this stuff, supersimplecamerasettings.com. You can grab that free course where I talk all about ISO, shutter speed, aperture, white balance, resolution, frame rates. You can master all that stuff in minutes with my free course. So hopefully that will help you. Thanks for the question. All right. We got Concise Barber. I honestly don't like the iPhone cinematic at times due to the blur on the outside of the products. It's not clean. 1000%. Yes. I'm glad you brought this up. Cinematic mode is cool. Like, it's super awesome that phones can do this now, but it's all digital still, right? Like, it's not truly having that depth and that blur that like actual lenses that are crafted that way will do, and all that stuff. So there are drawbacks and it's not perfect. And at the end of the day, you just have to ask yourself, like, hey, does this thing work for me? Does it not? Is it high enough quality? If I'm doing client work for certain situations, maybe it's not the best. If I'm doing it for social media, maybe it's fine, or maybe it's still not the best. You know, you got to figure that out for yourself. But yes, the cinematic mode can be a little wacky at times. 1000%. All right, let's see. All right. Yeah, we got an answer to that question earlier from Cole. Vikrant is asking, what's the best lens for talking head videos with Sony a7C? My favorite lens is, again, I'll mention it, the Sony 20mm 1.8, which is what I have on right now. Fantastic lens. Amazing. Can't talk high enough of it. It's basically always on my camera. And I have a ton of other lenses, but this one I love it so much. It's great for vlogging, great for talking head. Would highly recommend. Alternative, if you don't want to drop the money on that, would be Tamron. They have some good options. I believe they have a 17 to 28 millimeter 2.8. Also a great lens, very lightweight, has a little bit of zoom. 2.8 is still nice depth. So great question. Cole Anderson coming in with all the questions today. Thank you, Cole. Are you an advocate for ND filters, or do you break the rules with shutter speed? I am a rule breaker 1000%. I break the rules all the time. I just always break the rules. I don't own ND filters at all. I break the rules. I'm outed. I break them. It's what I do. It's who I am. I think ND filters are fine. It's just like something I never got into. So that's my answer for you. I think, like, I get the argument, and you can see it in the footage when you have a super trained eye, but to me, it all depends on who your client is, who your audience is, if they're even going to notice that type of stuff. And I think for me, it doesn't bother me that much to crank shutter. So a lot of times I just crank shutter. And in studio situations where I have light control, I just don't need to. You know, I can set all my stuff to true shutter speed when I'm shooting in here, and it's fine. So hopefully that answers that. Concise Barber has Canon 7070, best lens for tutorials. I forget, enlighten me. It's been a minute. Let me look it up real quick. Canon 7070, is that crop sensor or full frame? I think it's crop, right? I'll try to look it up real quick. Yeah, APS-C. Okay. So for this camera, I would recommend the Sigma 16mm 1.4. Fantastic lens for the price. Get that nice depth of field, good wide field of view. That would be my answer. Best value for money, in my opinion. And you're saying, or should I get a newer camera? No, you don't need a new camera. Pop that lens on there. You'll see a crazy difference for sure. All right. All right, guys. Well, you know, this has been good. I think that it's an interesting camera, the FX30. I'm very excited to see it. And, you know, ultimately content is what you make it, no matter what camera you're using. It's about so much more than just the camera. And I'd love to talk to you guys about that for a second. It's like gear in general. There's so many variables to it, right? And it's like, at the end of the day, I think we get so caught up in the gear. We get so caught up in like, oh, if I could just get that new camera, then I can take on the world and make all my ideas come to life. And it's like, look, if you're not making the videos with your phone or what you have now, you're still not going to make them with the new camera. Like maybe you'll make it once to test it out, but you're not going to develop that discipline of like, hey, I'm creating, I'm making stuff, you know, because even now, like I have great gear, but a lot of times if I'm out and about, it's like I'm working with what's on me. I might be using a GoPro or a phone, or in the last video I did, a $30 toy camera, you know, and ultimately it's not about, you know, I think there are certain benefits for sure. Quality definitely matters, but it doesn't matter as much as you think. Like at the end of the day, it's way more about like, what is your video about? What is it that you're doing throughout the video to tell a story? How are you engaging the viewer? How are you doing this, that, and the other? How are you adding value? And you're not going to like, just getting a new camera is not going to suddenly allow you to do that or to be better at that. But you can start developing those skills even with a phone, with a cheap camera, like whatever it is. Get in that habit of practice, start sharpening those skills, and the gear will come over time. So don't by any means think that you need to get something like the FX30 before you start, because the reality is if you start with what you have now, when the time comes when you get something like that, you'll be able to, you know, appreciate it that much more. So one of the other things that you can do to really level up your craft is to actually use music to help tell your story, which brings me to today's sponsor, Soundstripe. If you guys have been here on the channel before, you know that I always love to rep Soundstripe because I think they're a great way to get music. I actually have a playlist with them with some of my favorite tracks that I use on my videos. You guys can check them out there. And they've got great filter tools. They make it super fast and easy to find a great track. They say on average that pretty much people on average take about 5 minutes to find a song for their project, which I think is great. That's one of the reasons I love music licensing sites like Soundstripe, is because their tools are fantastic and save me tons of time. Their plans are super competitive and affordable, and you guys can use code creative20 to save 20% at checkout. Sorry for throwing an ad at you guys like that, but it's just a tool that I really do believe in. I've tried a ton of different music licensing sites, and I found that Soundstripe has a lot of great quality music for the money. And so again, going back to that topic, starting to invest even in some stuff like that, that's a little bit of a lower barrier to entry, doing a subscription service for $10 a month to get awesome music for your videos could actually be a better investment, or a more bang for buck investment than trying to go straight for some cinema camera when you don't know how to use it yet or take advantage of it yet, right? So those are some things to consider, like how can I learn to use music in my productions to convey emotion or to tell a story or to add mood. Soundstripe has so many good options for that stuff. So just something to think about and something to consider. All right. Concise the Barber, going back to a question. Sigma 16 millimeter 1.4, correct? Yes, that is the one that I would recommend to you. And then Johnny says, agree with you about gear, but there is a minimum amount of gear necessary to be serious. I would agree with you, Johnny. I do think that there is, to be serious, and serious is varying to different people, because the reality is it just depends on what your goals are and what it is that you're wanting to do. I've seen people starting to make thousands and thousands of dollars with just their phone on TikTok, right? Because that's, quality wise, they're reaching the goal that they want with that. Translating that to YouTube's a little bit harder, because there is a certain standard that people have kind of come to expect, you know, that a lot of people aspire to. But the reality is, and like what I say all the time on this channel, you can still use this, and if you know what you're doing, you can get great results with lighting, right? So it's like, I've got a super expensive camera rocking right now, but if I was to ditch my lighting, you know, and kind of like make it not look so fantastic, this is looking a little rough now, right? I've got the fantastic camera, but if I don't set it up good with, you know, my other skills of lighting, and, you know, maybe I ditch my audio or I don't do that so good, and I'm talking way over here, it probably doesn't sound quite as good over there. You know what I mean? So like, all of these things matter. They do matter. So it's not just about the camera, it's about your overall skills. But what I'm passionate about is helping you guys learn how to take these skills up to the next level without necessarily having to go broke, right? Like, how can we use some of the budget gear? How can we use just some stuff that's free and available to us, like natural light, to help our videos look and sound better, right? Looking through these comments, looking through. Yes, Soundstripe is 10 a month for the creator plan. So on the creator plan, you can use it for YouTube and all that stuff, just not for freelance work. Great question. Cole says, got a jet. Thanks for stopping, Cole. Appreciate you. Let's see. All right, guys, I love the dialogue going on. I'll kind of bring it up front too. Learn Spanish World says, there's got to be a balance. People shouldn't just simply focus on purchasing equipment, thinking that will make them see there's way more to it. 100%. And I think both of you guys are saying the same thing, right? Like, I think we can all agree on that aspect. Like, the gear alone is not enough, but that doesn't mean we don't need to invest in better gear as we grow, because I do think that there's merit to it, and I do think that it will enhance your production quality, and the goal is not necessarily to have high production quality. Like, the goal really for a lot of us is just like, can I make my video easy to look at, and can I make my video easy to listen to? And then what the gear does beyond those two things is, how does it help me make stuff easier, faster, and better, right? So that's really where the gear starts to, at a certain level, the quality looks similar, but the ease of use and the custom presets and the workflow is enhanced when you start to get at certain levels of cameras and gear and all that stuff. It's like right now I'm using like a $500 key light that does a bunch of crazy stuff. It's like, I can change the color and do all this crazy things, but I don't need this to look like this. Like, I can use just a $50 softbox and get a similar look. There's other reasons why I use this. It makes my life easier when I'm trying to get creative with certain shots, doing certain things. And so that's what I mean. It's like, you start to appreciate those higher price tags as you get further along, because it makes your life easier as a creator. And the quality can look almost similar sometimes. Like, the ZVE10 output and the FX30 output to the untrained eye probably will look pretty similar if you have the same lens on it, honestly, because they're both crop sensors. They're both gonna be there's benefits to the FX30, but to the untrained eye, both will look good, you know? So it's kind of like, a lot of the benefit you're getting is like longer battery life, you know, the ability to potentially do LUTs, which will make the output look different. The you know, flip out, well, I guess they both flip out screens, the thread mounts, the form factor, like, all of those things are what you get on that upgrade. Like, the better resolution certainly will look better. So there are for sure some spec differences, but at the end of the day, just a regular 24 frame 4K shot with the same lens will probably look similar. So it's really about knowing what you're doing with it. Getting the new camera is not going to instantly unlock stuff if you don't know what you're doing. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I'm kind of ranting with this here, but I'm passionate about this stuff. I just want you guys to succeed. I want you guys to be able to go out and make awesome content and feel proud of it and feel like you're doing a good job with it, and not having to wait until you can afford certain stuff to get started, because you'll get that much further faster if you start now, right? So hopefully this little stream has been helpful for you guys. It's a little bit of a different one for me. You know, I just wanted to hop on this bandwagon of this new camera release. I, for one, am very excited about it. I think that the FX30 has a ton to offer for the money. I think that is going to be a fantastic option for a lot of people. You know, if you want to find out more about all of the specs and all the stuff, there's a lot of videos I saw getting posted on it. I just wanted to share some of my insights for those who are interested. And I do think it is a fantastic camera. I think that, you know, for the price tag, especially, super aggressive. You know, I'm jealous. I wish my A7C had 4K 120. That would be crazy. And who knows, maybe they'll come up with a new model of the A7C at some point. But for now, best bang for buck, it's looking that way. $17.99, all of the specs you get with it, pretty solid. So for sure. I'll do a few more Q&A and then we'll end out the stream, guys. I appreciate all of you stopping by and hanging out. It's been a fun one. So let's see. We got another Learn Spanish World. Videos look great. Mic sounds amazing. Is that the Shure VB7 great mic? It's the Shure MV7. Yes. I'm just gonna show you here. So one of the reasons I'm getting this mic to sound like it does is running through the Elgato Wave XLR. So I'm not hard plugging this to the computer via USB, which is what I was doing. I decided to see what else I could do with it. Could I push it more? And so for about $100, I bought the Wave XLR, which I don't know if I want to move it, but it's a little box that plugs the XLR, connects it all, and it actually has the ability to do some post-production live. So my mic's about to sound a lot different, so I'm gonna change some stuff. I'm gonna take the EQ, the peak limiter, the dynamics processor, and the noise gate off for a second. This is what it sounds like without that stuff. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Just the MV7 hard plugged via XLR. Now with some post-production processing, we've got our graphic EQ, our limiter, our dynamics processor, and our noise gate. And those things are really going to help make a difference with the quality of the microphone. And you get to unlock that by purchasing the Wave XLR, which I'm still new to it. I'm trying it out. I like it so far. Let me know if that makes a difference. I think it's pretty fun. Let's see. What Stream Deck do you use? Yes, I use Elgato. Sorry, let me put that up. Concise Barber. I use the Elgato Stream Deck. I love it. It works really well. I've got the 15 key one or whatever it is. So it's not like the super big one, not the super small one, just the medium size. And it works well. And I'm streaming through Ecamm Live, which is how I'm, outputting the stream in 4K and doing all that. With the Elgato, I can change scenes and do different stuff like this, and go to my presentation and kind of like show and hide myself, all with the touch of a button. Really nice to use when streaming. Yep. So let's see. Think about buying CP3 lens. Worth it? Better at manual focus. Let me pull this one up real quick. Shahul says, what do you think about buying CP3 Cine lenses for A7 III? Is it worth, and can you talk about getting better at manual focus? I don't know if I would, honestly, I don't think it would be worth buying the Cine lenses for the A7 III. I think there's so many great lens options for less. So that's just my own opinion. As far as manual focus, my biggest tip if you're using the A7 III, my biggest tip would be to change your custom buttons up at the top. I believe it's like C1 or C2, either one of those, to be your focus magnifier. So while you're recording, you can punch in on your focus magnifier and dial in your focus. I would also turn focus peaking on. I would probably change the color to red, and I would make it be about medium level to low level, so you can still see stuff, and you'll find your focus gets a lot better. So that would be my advice to you for manual focus. I would highly recommend using autofocus if you're doing talking head or live stream filming yourself. But for sure, if you're behind the camera, I love using manual focus. I did it for years, still do it a lot, and that's how I do it. So great question. All right, so let's see. All right, guys. Well, that's been a fun stream. The FX30 is upon us. You know, it's been announced, so I'm excited about it. I'm interested to see. I think it's going to fly off the shelves, honestly. I think a lot of people are going to be into it for that price point. Yeah, I think so. But I, for one, am kind of on the fence about it. I think it's super cool. I don't know if I need it. I want to get it so I can do a review on it, you know, but at the end of the day, I still love my A7C. So, you know, full frame, I'm a sucker for it. You know, I love full frame, and I think it is oftentimes worth the investment to me, not to everyone. At the end of the day, the end user, they're not going to be sitting there like, is that full frame? Is that whatever? Unless it's like a filmmaking niche. Like if you're just doing a whatever, like any other niche, like crop sensor's fine. You're not going to, your audience isn't going to know. So 100%, I think it will be a great option. All right, guys. Well, this has been a fun stream today. I appreciate all of you, you know, hanging out, and we'll be streaming again real soon. I've got some fun topics. You know, in the meantime, connect with me on Instagram. Check out my recent video where I pushed a $30 toy camera to its limits if you're into that sort of thing. And as always, stay creative. Peace.